Greetings and salutations, fine people. I'm Patti Alvarez. Welcome to The Good Soul, a show where we'll have supercharged chats with everyday humans from all walks of life and unpack what in their story will inspire us all. We'll extract the untapped wisdom, distill it, and serve it up to you in all the right ways that will engage, enlighten, and most of all, inspire growth within your soul. I think people are awesome. So join me on this journey through the hearts and minds of ordinary people to uncover the good soul within you. This is The Good Soul.
Welcome back to The Good Soul, episode 73, All About Me, part 2, Patti. Since we only got to Patti in her 20s in episode 1 and creating Funk and Standard and about to get married last time we met, here we are again to cover from then to the present day with an emphasis on situations and people that inspired Patti to be who she is today and how we can all draw on our own experiences to be our very best selves. So, Patti, let's dive in. Got a lot to cover today, so we're going to get through your whole life story from mid-20s onwards.
All right, and I just want to give Manny special props. Way to handle the teleprompter. That was really awesome. Woo!
Thank you, Manny.
Yeah.
Okay, and segment 1 is business development, marriage, and Funk and Standard. So tell us a bit more about Funk and Standard.
Okay, so I had kind of touched yesterday on the influence that my father had on my life and my mom and my aunts. And it was the 80s, too, in my heyday, in my teens. So fashion and hairspray and, all kinds of big hair. And
even I had big hair in the 80s.
Did you really? Yes. Oh, I'd love to see a picture. That's so funny. Yeah, crazy when we look at pictures of like what we used to do.
My mom used to do a home perm.
Oh, God. I remember blow drying the hair and spraying it while it was blow drying. It was like blow dry in a windstorm. But anyway, so my father, being the hardworking, smart man that he was, he didn't just hand me a pile of bills and say, go open a store. We went to the bank. I drew up a business plan and I sat down and applied for a loan. And he co-signed, and I paid every penny back of that loan myself throughout the course of the business, which I'm very proud to say. Yes, although it wasn't always easy with the money. That's probably the hardest part of entrepreneurship. Yeah. So the store opened on Broad Street in downtown Red Bank, 40 Broad Street. We were right next to a Starbucks, and Red Bank was undergoing a renaissance. It was one of those towns that kind of emptied out, and everybody was going to the malls. And they had kind of brought in, New Jersey had a program, which I don't exactly know. I guess it was the Downtown Development Fund. And they created these special improvement districts. Were called SIDS. And all of the commercial property owners were assessed a very small percentage on their property value. And it went to this organization called the Red Bank River Center. So the River Center bricked the sidewalks and decorated for Christmas and organized the 4th of July fireworks and did all kinds of really cool stuff for the downtown. Retail recruitment was probably one of our biggest. So after I had that kind of come to Jesus moment in Urban Outfitters on Broadway in Manhattan, I really that helped the store to really take shape. So a lot of people thought it almost was an Urban Outfitters, and I still had my connection with Michael Schultz in the Free People showroom. So we filled it up with Free People clothes and all kinds of really cool home decor, and we had.
So it became a really cool place to go.
Instantly,
I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was really cool,
and it was in a great location.
It was in a great location. I lucked out. A company called Metrovation gave me a chance. It's funny because I'm listening to the book right now called Outliers. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's like the fringe of the super successful, brilliant people and how they make things happen. And he was referring this morning to Bill Gates. And he was saying Bill Gates wasn't just a smart guy. He had successful parents who were pretty wealthy. He went to a private school that happened to have a computer room in the 60s, which was very rare. The parents invested in a computer lab in a high school, which was very rare back then, and so on and so on and so on. And there were like 9 events that were stacked up.
A lot of foresight, right?
Yeah, a lot of foresight and a lot of luck too. Yes. So that was a piece of kind of wisdom that Dick Hayne, the owner of Urban Outfitters, gave to me when I went to a Christmas party at his house. He said to me, it's half hard work and half good luck. and
Yeah.
he's not lying. It
Yeah.
is. I mean, the stars have to align.
Yeah.
And I think success is where good luck and hard work meet. So you have to
what
be,
chance you take.
well, chance, and you have to be
Yes.
prepared for the chance.
Yeah.
So
Right on.
if you're in position, you can capitalize and really kind of thrive off of whatever it is that life
Yeah.
is throwing your
Yeah,
way.
and it's about taking calculated risks
Yeah.
at the right
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Be
and
brave
also
enough to do that.
I'm definitely in the fourth segment. Or the third segment. We'll get back to Corona and how I did that
Yeah.
with the studio too,
Yeah.
even. So anyway, the store really took off.
Okay,
Did you have a
course.
question before I
Well, I
start?
was going to kind of move on because I know we've got a lot to get
Yeah.
through, but kind of thinking, okay, it took off. How long did you have the store? And did it kind of meet your expectations?
Sure, absolutely.
What
So-
did you learn from it?
Okay, so the store took off. It was, my father would sit down in the back room. We'd be counting the money, and he would be like, "People work years to do."
It was real money, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be real. I mean, the first store did over $1 million in the first year. I was 26 years old, so it was
Throw
pretty.
the clientele in there too, because the clientele was big too.
The clientele was, the target range was kind of the 20-something was our target, but a lot of housewives loved the store and a lot of kids loved the store. So I ended up opening a second location in Westfield, New Jersey. We developed our own clothing line, which was manufactured in Los Angeles. I would go to Los Angeles every
Wow.
month. And
Who
it
did the
was-
design of the clothing?
Well, it was private label. So
Okay.
most people kind of operate off this. Yes, a lot of the high end, like the Bowdens and so forth, they have designers. But a lot of these, Forever 21s and that sort of thing, they go in and they find these manufacturers who make they'll knock off, I hate to say it, or get inspired by people like Bowden and people like,
yeah,
and
and
Gwen Stefani.
supermodels and
Yeah,
like some of the
and they'll make
catwalk
stuff and you go in and they basically will slap your label into
Yeah.
these clothes and ship them off to you. And it was exciting for me because it was
Yeah.
really part of the dream. The store was open for 14 years, and within that time, I put a juice bar in the store. We had video games. We had photo booths. We sponsored events all over the area. So concerts where if you go to a concert at a local venue, we'd be on stage throwing out free T-shirts. Another really exciting part of my life was my cousin Nina dated our local, not even local, he was really kind of regional concert promoter in my late teens before the store opened. And I got to work the green room for countless popular acts in the 90s. My sisters and I, Kelly, my
I think
sister.
you've told me about that before.
Yeah, from
Amazing.
Courtney Love, 9 Inch Nails, Green Day. I mean, the list goes on and on of like celebrities I got to meet doing that. So, and then that kind of all tied in with our promotion. So we did a lot of promoting with them. And then I got involved and ultimately became the chairperson to the Red Bank River Center, which is where I got my feet wet in politics.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it sounds like it's a really amazing time in your life, Patti.
It was. And I was very young.
Working hard.
Loving every minute. Retail is definitely not for the faint at heart.
Mm-mm.
It's not like the studio where I come in and there's a class at 9:00 and I can go
Yeah.
run to whatever, get a smoothie and come back. You have to be there all day long.
Yeah.
So, and you don't know, it's hard to predict, like in this business in terms of cash flow, it's very predictable. You have your students, you have your people on promo. I have my rhythm every month, every week that I go over memberships. There, it's like, I hope they come in. I hope
Yeah.
they like what I bought. I hope they,
And
so
some of it can be really random, I'm sure.
very random.
Yeah.
And then in a downtown situation where you're not protected from the weather, rainy days really affect things. Snowy days really affect things. So there's all kinds of different elements
We're
you're
doing it
dealing
again,
with.
Patti. We're not getting through our questions
That's
here, but
okay.
this is all great stuff.
That's okay.
And
Yeah.
So just to conclude in terms of Funk and Standard and what you achieved there and what you learned just in the last minute or so of this segment.
The most important thing I learned is that business became my identity. And that's very common, I think, for people, their vocation to become their identity. And it took a very long time and falling in love with a very strong man and kind of reinventing myself was something that was not in the cards. I'm going to keep referring to this journal and the plans that I had.
Look at that.
So this is a journal I wrote for myself almost 20 years ago. And you kind of have to switch out a successful chain of retail clothing stores to successful podcasts, successful blog. It's the same philosophy. It's just in a different costume. So the biggest takeaway is to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
Is what I learned from that
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. And I've seen that myself in my own life, from being an HR manager to working for Pinky Swear to getting involved in other things. It's kind of the same mindset, the same skill set, the same types of experiences that you just apply in different scenarios,
Yeah,
right?
and there's no mistakes. You learn
Exactly.
something everywhere you go. So.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. We will see you
again
for a second.
in segment 2 in just a minute. Bye.
This segment of The Good Soul is brought to you by Aaron Fisnick, certified luxury home specialist with Ivester Jackson Christie's International Real Estate. Aaron serves all levels of the greater Lake Norman region real estate market, and whether buying or selling, she is very much the lady who will deliver like no other. Many of us at Good Soul are also really happy clients. Aaron can be reached at 704-728-5657 or reach out to me and I'll get you guys connected. Thank you, Aaron Fisnick, and thank you guys for tuning in and supporting The Good Soul.
Okay, welcome back, listeners, for segment 2 of All About Me, episode 73. So, Patti, just before we move on to Eat, Pray, Love, just tell us a little bit more about that time in your life. You had your successful business.
Yes.
You got married to Mark. You had baby Molly. You started teaching spin and yoga.
Yes, I did.
You became a vegan.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of other things
All
going
kinds of stuff.
in this very busy life you had.
bar.
So
yeah.
juice bar. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that and
Sure.
kind of your motivation there.
Sure. I explain how Mark and I had met. And so at that point, the store had only been open. We opened on November 7th of 1998. And that was the same day that Rachel was born. My stepdaughter and his youngest. Yeah. And right up the street. So right up the block is they lived locally.
Crazy.
So Riverview Hospital.
But you didn't know that.
No,
that's
I just knew Manny.
Right?
Yes.
Isn't that weird?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I just knew Manny as like the handsomest guy in Middletown. I didn't know him. I didn't know him as yeah, thank you. So so the store was successful. It was so incredibly rewarding, but also at the same time quite overwhelming. And I have to say that I had Molly. September 11th happened, which I think kind of turned everybody's life on its ear. So that first year, Mark and I had bought a beautiful home in Atlantic Highlands on a hill, a historic home. We had Molly. At that point, my sister had already had my niece, who's a year older than Molly. And, we started popping out babies, as they say. We had a playroom. So my sister worked with me, Kelly, every day.
Yes, you mentioned that.
We had a playroom attached to our office
For the little ones.
for the kids with, a pack and play and, TV and all kinds of toys for them, and the nanny would come in. So when September 11th happened, I had almost like an epiphany. And I said, I don't want too much happen too quickly. I'm not even 30. And I was a bit overwhelmed. So we ended up selling the house and moving to a loft in downtown Red Bank, which was so super cool. So super cool. And at that point, I was teaching spin. I started teaching yoga.
What got you into doing that? Is it something you've done your entire life?
My first job was in fitness. I worked at a place called New Woman in it's kind of like a Brookdale called The Grove in Shrewsbury.
So were you into being fit and active as a child?
Yeah, I think
teenager?
cheerleading kind of forced me to be. Where I lacked in grades, I was always again focused on fitness, and I certainly wasn't the hot chick, but like appearance and neatness and just wellness and taking care of myself. No, I was not. I was not the hot chick, and I don't need to be the hot chick. I know who I am, and there's plenty of beautiful hot chicks who are good at being that. So anyway, ironically, the people who leased me my first store on Broad Street owned that mall called The Grove. The company's called Metrovation, who kind of took a chance on me and let me lease that space at 28 years old, which I still think is really funny. Chris Cole, my sister, and I were just talking about him the other day. So at that point, my now ex-husband was he had just completed. He got his master's. He was in a band. He had just gotten his black belt in karate. Like he had so many interests. He worked in the city, and our lives just kind of started going like this. Mm-hmm. And then the last stab was we ended up renting a house in a town called Locust, a really beautiful home on the Navasink River, where our neighbors were like John Bon Jovi, and it was like crazy.
Beautiful there.
Yeah, I mean, our house wasn't a castle; it was like an old fisherman's cottage, but it is a beautiful home. And that at that point, we had decided that we would part ways, that we just had kind of grown apart. He ended up taking a job in Alabama as a professor. He's a library, works in library science at Alabama. Yeah,
we'll get where Molly ultimately.
Yeah, that's how Molly ended up going. Roll Tide. Yes.
Yes.
So it was very hard. That was probably the most painful.
How old was Molly at the time?
Probably 8.
Okay.
7, 8. And at that time, and he's a very sweet guy. Like we get along. I still have so much love and admiration for him, just in a different way. And that was always very nice because there was never any like real, like it didn't get like
animosity,
worn roses. No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, we certainly had our tough conversations and stuff, but
what were your feelings around that then? Because that's a really tough thing,
guilt.
I know, to go
mean,
through.
I'll be honest. I think I initiated it, so I felt a lot of guilt, and I still do in a lot of ways. I feel like I, let them down, but hopefully, Mark has moved on to marry an incredible woman who I adore and consider my sister wife, as I call her, Laura.
Yeah, love
and
that.
I met Manny, and he has stepsons, and Molly has stepbrothers, and I have stepdaughters who are like my own, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
So a lot, it's still.
But you were carried on running Funk and Standard.
Carried on
Funk
and Standard, but this is when everything kind of started to unravel.
Yeah.
It started with my mother being diagnosed with colon cancer.
Yes.
Which was devastating to our family.
That was like 2012, did you say?
So no, more like 2008-ish, I would say, around the same time.
Yeah.
That, and my then it's hard to talk about my then mother-in-law who passed. She
I'm sorry,
too.
Patti.
No, that's okay. She was just a great lady. She was awesome. She had breast cancer, and she decided to decline treatment. And she was very helpful even through the divorce. Oh, thanks. I'm good. She was helpful through the divorce. She used to make a joke, if you guys ever divorce, we're keeping you and getting rid of him. So she was very cynical, and she was one of a kind. And I think about her often. But she passed, and that was right around the time that we had our house fire. So he went and lived with her while she was sick, and my mother had gotten sick, and there was a recession, and business started to decline, and things got really tough. I mean, this was the big transition for me. This is where things really started to, I guess, unfold. And with the charmed life that I got to live, with the parents I had, and growing up the 80s, and the Guess jeans, and the good times, and the Madonna concerts, it all kind of, I guess the gods were like, we're going to make you, struggle a little bit, and we're going to teach you some hard lessons. And they did. So, as I like to say, all in about 3 years' time, my mother got sick. I lost my mother-in-law. My house burnt down. We got divorced. The business started to really plummet. And
you're still trying to raise a small child.
I'm raising a small child. So, and Molly went to a very, very extraordinary private school, similar to Davidson Day or Cannon, called the Rumson Country Day School. And when Mark and I had separated, I really felt as though when you pay for, in this case, and I'm not saying all private schools are the best and public schools aren't, or vice versa, but that investment was worth every penny, because everyone in that community really, and I know they would come together in any community, but they really came together and rallied for Molly. They were very in tune with, what was going on in our home. And, if we wanted to take a vacation, I'll never forget, we were going to Europe, and they said she can't take days off. And I was like, she's in kindergarten. Like, I had to talk to the headmaster about, but
I can identify so much with things that have gone on in my life and my children's life. And Davis
people
Day
rallying
school,
around
so
you.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, when we had the house fire, one of the funniest things was our, at that point, Mark went to his mother's. We were separated, so he was at his mother's. Molly and I were home alone when the house fire happened. But I went to my parents, and my parents have a 4-car garage, and 2 of the garages were filled with everything from soap to comforters to uniforms for Molly to pictures of like books. And my father, who, prideful like most men, rags to riches, was like, what do these people think? Are we the poor family? And I'm like, Dad,
they just want to help.
No, if Bruce Springsteen's kids did go to the school, as did John Bon Jovi's kids. And I said, if Bruce Springsteen's kid had a fire, this is what they would be doing for him. It's not about who's rich and who's poor.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
what
at that
caused
point,
the fire, Patti.
It was electrical. It was like
Gosh,
an old fisherman's
how
cottage.
scary.
Yeah, I was downstairs, and and guys, I say this all the time: make sure you keep your fire alarms, the batteries in, because that saved Molly's life. I heard the beep, and I went upstairs. And as I went upstairs, I saw through the doorway down the hall the fire, and she was walking towards me. Thankfully, the fire alarm woke her up, but it started in the room that she was sleeping in, which was our bedroom, or my bedroom at the time.
So scary.
Yeah, lost. And so the whole first floor burnt down. And this is another thing, the how fascinating is how fast it happens. I'll never forget, I was in a tank top and my undies, and I wrapped a sheet around me, and I took her by the hand. In my mind, I'm like, well, they'll put it out and we'll sleep in Molly's room. It's like we walk out the front yard and turn around, and the whole house
Place was
in
ablaze.
moments. So if you ever go, how do you die in a fire? Why don't you just run out of the house? How? Because it goes in flames so quickly.
Especially the older house,
Quick.
like torches.
Yeah. It was, they
Just
call it a
little
tinderbox.
flame,
Yeah.
little flame, it goes right up the side walls.
Yeah.
And catches like a match.
They called it
Absolutely.
and then 10 minutes later,
goodness.
there's 200 local people, volunteers on your front yard. And, it was crazy.
I mean, how did you feel? I mean, just to wrap up this segment,
Yeah.
that was so many things going on in your
Yeah.
life. The recession, your marriage ending,
Yeah.
your mum being ill, your mother-in-law,
Mhm.
and oh my gosh, it's a house fire. What the
Yeah.
heck?
Yeah.
You
How did
felt
I
pretty
feel?
sorry for yourself at that point, right?
I'm not one to feel sorry for myself. What I felt like was a failure, that I was doomed, that the best days were behind me. And at, 35, 33, whatever I was years old at the time, that I blew it. That
What the heck was I going to do with the rest of my life?
Catholic
kind of thing.
guilt. Well, a little, I had this, but no, it's the guilt of, it was the guilt of, I screwed everything up. Like, what did I do here? But there was always this light flickering in the back of my head. And I knew in my heart of hearts, because my parents encouraged me so tremendously my whole life and made me feel like Madonna in their own ways, that I knew I would bounce back.
Positive.
Yeah.
And
Okay. All right.
And
So
fortitude,
we're going to transition now from where you are in that moment to next phase of your life,
Dun, dun,
meeting
dun.
Manny,
Yes.
good soul, moving down to North Carolina.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Lots of great things.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Patti.
Thank you, Sue.
We'll see you in a minute.
Want a little bit more rainbows and unicorns in your life? Start your day with Good Soul Daily. Every morning, you'll find me in your inbox, where I share a quick story, lesson, or quote to spark joy and inspiration. Come join our hundreds of daily readers, and let's step into our new day together with my lighthearted, Pollyannic approach. I would be honored if you'd allow me into your heart and head, where you are sure to be delighted and inspired. Text me over your email address to 704-618-7993 for your daily dose of happiness and reassurance that life is pretty darn awesome.
Okay, listeners, welcome back. We are already in segment 3. Apparently, this is truly the eat, pray, love phase
Thank you
of
for
Patti's
saying that.
life. So we're going to cover the next 7 years after that devastating house fire and all the other things, to when Patti met Manny and all the great things that came thereafter.
Yeah, everything that
Okay.
came after.
So Patti, talk to me a little bit about how you picked yourself up after that, and what
Okay.
happened in that transitory period.
Okay.
And then we'll go on and talk about all those good things.
We'll move on. So, cut to the garage and being at my parents' house after the house fire. And about a week went by, and I forget what was said or what happened, but my mom just looked at me and was like, "Why don't you go stay in Seabright?" And I was like, "Yeah, probably a good idea." So, as much as we got along, and I was crazy about my mother,
That was their
living
beach
together,
house.
going back. Yeah. So my parents had a condo, which my sisters and I still own, in Seabright, New Jersey. And Molly and I went and lived in Seabright.
Yeah.
And I just decorated it so bohemian and colorful for her. And at that point, we had done a ton of traveling. And I was teaching spin. She would get up and come to the YMCA with me at 5 a.m. One of the times we were there, she broke her shin on a spin bike, going into her shin, and she walked around on a broken shin for 2 days because I was too much of a workaholic to take her for an x-ray. And she didn't cry. And the old saying, I did take her to the doctor, I'm joking, and the doctor was like, if it was broken, you would know it.
Yeah.
So we had a Christmas party to host that night. But she that just a metaphor, because she really was such a trooper, like her whole childhood. And, some nights if we'd have a couple glasses of wine in her young adult years, and I'd say, Molly, I feel so bad. Like, so many years I feel like they went by, and she always would say, like, or does say, like, Mom, I had the best childhood. And she had her cousins too. I mean, my sister was a second mom to her, and still is. Was my sister Kelly was so helpful that she had her cousins.
So is that quite close? I mean, was she still at the same school and things like that?
Well, the school ended at 8th grade.
Okay.
So at that point in Seabright, she's still at the Rumson Country Day School.
Yeah.
When all of this happened.
Yeah.
So like her dad would come home and they would spend Christmas together. She would get on a plane and do that like escorted plane. Yeah. Which like they treat you like royalty.
Yeah.
And I would go like to Kripalu, if you know what Kripalu is, in Massachusetts, and spend New Year's Eve by myself meditating and chanting and doing yoga. I had that at that point become vegan. It was actually before Mark and I.
What inspired that, Patti?
Just from the heart. I mean, I still feel guilty every time I sink my teeth into
Piece of
flesh.
meat.
Yeah. But I just, that's another.
How long did that
story.
last, that phase?
Long time, well into our relationship. And he actually was vegan for a year, for basically 2020. Well, Tommy Archer, Jesse's boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, I don't know what we call him, used to say, I'd be vegan too if you were cooking for me, because I'm a pretty good cook. But he was vegan for over a year. But we spent 2021 New Year's at the Omni Grove Park Inn in a suite with the kids, where he said to me on New Year's Eve, I'd like to have Olive Garden for dinner. So I'm like, 5 Michelin star restaurants in that hotel, and I'm trekking through the hotel with Olive Garden shopping bags. Like, the trailer trash is here. And then the kids left, and the next night I said, I want Olive Garden too, and I ordered angel hair Alfredo, and 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 at first I would only eat fish and dairy, and now I don't really.
I'm a kind of aspiring vegan. Brad and I did it for about a week once, one New Year's.
A week,
because I'm not a big meat person. I love fish.
Yeah.
And I'd like to be a vegan.
Well, you could be pescatarian.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much am, but,
Well,
but true vegan, that's hard work, cutting out dairy and...
With Patti, like she said, though, the food was good. She was a really
I
good
fool
cook.
people,
gosh, yeah. I
can
know.
cook it like it's not vegan.
Yeah.
So Lori Cohen Peters is one of my favorite Facebook friends. Dorothy Diana had introduced me to her because I had a lot of trouble losing weight. And she gave me this long explanation on the circle of life, and how dare I have the audacity to think that animals don't feel as though it's their place in the circle of life to nourish people. And she gave me this whole new take on eating meat.
Okay.
I can't say that fully convinced me, but listen, to each his own is what I always say. And I see a lot of my friends who are vegan militant vegans back in the late 90s, early 00s, who this one guy who I know just posted a picture of tuna tartare. I was like, you eat tuna? This is like yesterday. So, we change, we balance, and we all go through different dynasties in our life.
Yeah, to me with that, life is all about a balance, right? And
God,
moderation
not eating cheese. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, I love cheese.
Yeah. So at that point, I was working the juice bar at Funk and Standard Red Bank, and this very handsome, charming Russian man walked in, and what seemed to be, a great, perfect, unbelievable dream come true of a guy turned out to be one of the shadiest, most deceptive human beings I've ever met. And
I'm sorry, Patti. That's
it's
another blow there,
Listen,
right?
We could all be fooled. We could all get fooled. I know. I guess the red flag I should have known when he didn't want to meet my sisters and didn't want to meet my parents, and it's like crazy. Sadly, he's since passed. He's no longer with us. He went back to Russia.
So how long were you with him?
Like under 2 years, but he commuted back and forth to Los Angeles, so we weren't not together at all the time. It was like, it was crazy. At one point,
and you finally saw through him. Is that what happened?
His son worked for me, who's an angel. I mean, I love this kid. I don't talk to him anymore because I wanted this person out of my life.
Yes.
But his son worked with me, and I adore him. And I guess the kicker for me was when a girl called me from Los Angeles and said, I just had his baby a month ago.
Okay.
I was like,
oh my gosh, Patsy, I'm sorry.
No, I really wasn't upset. It was like at that point,
you weren't in love with him.
I knew what a jerky was. No, I knew what a jerky was, but it was just somebody to kind of make your heart go pitter patter. Somebody.
So I have to ask this.
Yeah,
you don't have to answer it, but did you date a lot of people in that 7-year period?
Oh God, no, not at all. No, he was the only one.
Okay,
I had a crush on one person or another person. I went on a date with a guy that worked in town. But same thing, like on our third date, we were having lunch and he was like, I kind of still live with my wife. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work.
So did that give you any issues with trusting guys?
No, not at all.
I mean, it wouldn't have done with me either.
I mean, I'm sure I've done.
Some people would say that, right?
No, I mean, I'm sure I've done really idiotic things to men that, I mean, I pulled the rug out of my ex-husband's whole entire world. I think we all do bad things to each other. So no.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
I'm not a victim type person. If somebody doesn't love me, it's okay. We don't have to be together, and I'm not going to feel like they're terrible for not loving me the way I need them to.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how all that phase of your life. I hate to put your life into segments, just like we're doing on the podcast, because life's not organized in that way.
How did it empower me?
But how did it empower you? What did you learn?
Okay.
And how you then transitioned into this next wonderful phase.
Yeah. What did I learn was to become very much a seeker. So I walked on hot coals when I was 19 years old at a Tony Robbins seminar. My father gave me a check for $500 and I drove my mother's Lincoln Town car down to a Tony Robbins seminar. And that's when it all started. The self-help world really caught me by storm. And it really all resonated. I love religion. I listen to the Bible every morning. I read Buddhism. I have all kinds of different kind of sources of wisdom I tap into. But I love when people like Tony Robbins or Mel Robbins or Glennon Doyle or Brene Brown, they speak to me about my world. And I really sunk my teeth deep into that sort of stuff. Like I said to you earlier, going to Kripalu and so much reading. I embraced.
So that was almost an epiphany moment for you.
It had
really
to happen.
Back in your late teens that has continued throughout your life.
Yes. So the Tony Robbins definitely was.
Yeah.
That workshop I went to. And I'm trying to think, there was a couple other books, Elizabeth Spark. I'm trying to think of a couple other authors that I read. One book was called Finding Joy. And I just remember it was this cute, colorful, whimsical, font.
Because it interests me because you don't describe yourself as an academic early in your life.
No, not at all.
But in fact, you are actually in the stuff that you listen to and read and... you're constantly curious to absorb new information, particularly on that topic.
It typically has to apply to me, not to sound selfish about it.
Yeah.
But I think at the end, and this is a great way to wrap up the segment, that at one point my sister was like, stop reading so many of those books and just go out and live.
Yeah.
That you can write those books yourself. Enough.
But
I'll never stop reading those books. I mean, I still go back and listen to Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within, that book that he wrote in the 90s, because it's like drinking a cool glass of water for me versus getting so deep. But that coming off that mentality and that notion, she had said to me one night when we were supposed to go to a party, roll up your yoga mat and put away your tofu and put on a dress, and you're coming to a party with me. Yeah. And I'll leave you with that teaser.
Don't get
because
too
that
deep
was a
into
very
yourself,
fateful
Patti.
night. Yes.
Okay. All right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll see you again for segment 4, listeners.
Who isn't looking to get happy and healthy and empower themselves in an extraordinary fitness community? At Good Soul Hot Yoga, we offer life-changing yoga, strength training, cycling, and relaxing therapeutic classes that will make everything in your life feel better. For some power, balance, and peace of mind, we will deliver. Come experience our spa-like wonderland in the center of Mooresville. We will become your happy place.
Welcome back, everyone. We are on segment 4 of episode 73. All about me, Patti. So this is the culminating segment. And your sister said, put on that dress, you're coming to the party, and the rest is history, Patti.
The Greek goddess dress, as Mrs. Rodriguez says, yes. Manny was a local celebrity. You can go back to episodes 1 and 2, Lucky in Love. but he was an adjective in my world. He was probably the best looking thing you could ever lay your eyes on. And I went to this party knowing he was going to be there, and I never had a reason. I knew his brother. I never had a reason to actually be in a place where he was going to be. So something in me was like, I'm just going to go. And I went to the party, and when we met, he was waiting at the top of the stairs, and his brother was really excited to introduce us. I always say, I think his brother had a premonition. I don't even know if he knew it. And I told him he was at a party at our house when I was in 6th grade with my sister. And I'm sorry, I was in 8th grade, and he was standing in our kitchen, and you would have thought Rock Hudson was standing in our kitchen. And who would have thought 20, 30 years later that we would meet, I would argue, and I'm sure you agree, honey, it was love at first sight.
Right on.
Yeah, it really was.
Like I knew her from previous life.
Yeah, like we knew each other from previous life.
Okay, so you looked at one another, and then what happened?
I just kept going back to him at the party, and the party was in his honor. And I kept walking back over to him. And my mother had passed at that point. My dad, my sister, and Molly was with me. Molly had just spent a month in England on like a teen tour. So she was like kind of jet lagged. And she was like, I want to go for Chinese. And Pete had a pool. And they were swimming. It was fun. And it was fun. Yeah, it was a great party. So he finagled. Somebody took our picture. And he's like, hey, text me that picture. And then he said to my sister, your sister gave me your phone number. And my sister's like, did you give Manny your phone number? And I'm like, he asked me to text him a picture. I didn't like formally give him my phone number, but so he ended up, I messaged him that night like a novel. I basically single-handedly was trying to cure his MS through juicing and eating vegan. And
all right, so you're already into solution mode with Manny.
Yeah, already. Like, as my friends and I like to call it, he was a fixer-upper for sure. Most of them are fixer-uppers. So, anyway.
I love that.
Yeah. So anyway.
You sent that text.
Yeah. I sent the text. He was in New Jersey for a week. We ended up going out on a date where we shared our first kiss. And I had a pulse again. You know, like it was like I remembered what it was like to feel. We were together for 2 years long distance. In that time, I had closed Funkin' Standard, and we ended up making Funkin' Standard into exclusively a juice bar.
Right.
Closed the juice bar and went to work with my father, who was getting sick at the time.
Okay.
So
at Crown Tire.
At Crown Tire.
Okay.
He basically at that point had worked downstairs at the counter doing retail, which was extremely lucrative, busy, successful. I always say like the numbers that business used to do were staggering. My father was a genius. So also made some really smart real estate investments. He's just he did the right things. Probably not all the time, he would say, but he really did good. So anyway, he made some smart moves. Let's put it that way. So I worked upstairs and I was selling juice cleanses at that point. So I was making the juice cleanses and kind of just delivering them to people. They would do 2, 3, 5, 7-day juice cleanses. I was kind of backing him up at the business. I didn't play that much of a crucial role other than if he needed food, if he needed to go somewhere, because he had a condition called pulmonary fibrosis, which basically the scar tissue builds up within your lungs and they kind of close in on themselves. And my sister Kelly, who as always is there for everybody and working hard to keep everything together, worked so hard to find, they had at one point gotten a stem cell treatment for him, all kinds of drugs that were under clinical trial. We would try to get, the day we found out there was a drug called Esbriet that was coming out that was supposed to cure it, or at least I should say stop the symptoms. It got approved by the FDA, but at that point it was too late.
Okay.
Yeah, so we couldn't, and he was even a candidate at one point for a lung transplant. So anyway, I kind of backed him up. Molly and I moved back into the house with him. Okay. And
that must have made him very happy that you were backing him up with the
maybe.
Business. And
who knows? No, I'm just kidding. Maybe Molly was still at Rumson Country Day at that point. So, and my sister and her husband and their 3 kids lived right up the street, Kelly. And then, of course, my sister Tammy at that point was in Manhattan. Tammy, I didn't get to spend a lot of time on, but she's lived quite an exciting life too. Major inspiration for me. She spent time in the Peace Corps. And just our world travelers, we'd like to say, the cool aunt. And I don't want to say the crazy cat lady, but she's got a couple cats. And she now, as I said in I think the first segment, she's living in Manhattan. Yeah. So my sisters, we all kind of band together in our own way to support him. And in the end, nature took its course. And
so sad to lose both your parents within a couple of years.
Yeah, it's a sin.
Yeah.
It's a sin.
And all this time you're managing a long distance relationship with Manny.
Yes.
Who's down here in Mooresville, North Carolina.
With MS.
Of all places.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
With MS.
With MS on a drug called Tysabri that was giving him pneumonia pretty much every few months. So,
how did that make you feel that,
horrible.
You'd fallen in love with this lovely man who had MS, which is...
it's funny because a lot of people question, namely like my dad, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, there was no option.
Yeah.
There would be no option. There would be no...
I was in worse shape.
He was in much worse shape.
I know you've told me that before, Manny. You were in a wheelchair.
It was twice his size. And he was muscular, but he was also very bloated and he was a wheelchair, walker, cane all the time. This is what love can do, though. And I really do believe in the power of love. And I do believe that it healed him. It was painful. We would sleep on the phone. It was that hard. So, yes, let's take it to August of 2015, where sadly we lost my father and decided to move here. Molly had finished at Rumson Country Day. For 2 months, they came to New Jersey for September, October, November, 3 months. Rachel came with him. And they went to Middletown South, but we came here for a visit, and Molly decided, and I agreed, and we all agreed we wanted to be back here. Yeah, at Pisces in the parking lot. Yeah, it was. Yes, it was my decision. Yeah. It was hard.
So you were toying with being up there together,
he never sold the house.
Being down here.
Well, we thought we were going to stay there, but I love New Jersey, but
I know.
I just love it here. I love living here a little bit more. That's pretty much, I'm very, very, very happy here.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that stuff, as great as my life was, there are a lot of habits and a lot of expectations and a lot of parts of me that I was having trouble shedding, habits and So
this kind of gave you a new lease of life.
It gave me completely a new lease on life. Yeah. They have an old saying, you want the person you're with to make you better at being who you are. And Manny epitomizes that.
Yeah.
He really makes me not only want to be a better version of me, but just naturally be a better version of me.
And that's so apparent with all that you've done here at Good Soul.
Yeah.
With the studio, with the classes, with the emails, with the podcasts and everything else.
Yeah.
You... to me, are truly epitomizing somebody who's the best version of yourself in this environment here.
Yeah.
Not that you weren't before in other instances in your life, but it's really brought out the best in you. And
yeah, I agree.
A beautiful woman.
Well, there's, you hear stories about women whose husbands are buying them Birkin bags and doing all these things for them, which I don't need. I've never, as I always would say, I am the rich man. No, I'm only kidding. When people are like, marry a rich man, I'm like, I want to be my own rich man. Thank you. I would, I want to see Manny thrive in whatever he decides to sink his teeth into, and he typically does. But Manny nets more than any man I know of any friend or loved one that I have. In other words, I think the investment he makes in me and our life, and by way of my heart and by way of holding me accountable for things and putting a mirror in my face, far would surpass all the Birkin bags in the world.
So describe what that looks like on a daily basis, because I'm sure not everybody can identify with that.
Well, we get into each other, we get into each other for sure, because we're both very type A. But I was just thinking last night, I don't know if you heard me say this to you, man, when I went to turn the garage light on and it was already on. We usually turn the garage light on at dusk. Yeah, everybody thinks they're nothing alike. I'll never forget one of his ex-girlfriends said to my sister, they're so different. And I'm we're really not. We're not. We're very similar. We're kind of anal about keeping the house clean and keeping everything in order in a certain way. And we may sound different. Our vocabulary may be different. Our taste in movies may be a little bit different in music.
And I'm a little more, laid back. So that meets balances.
Yeah, we balance each other out. Yeah, there's no question that he's the love of my life. Like we're meant to me.
Oh, yeah. Well, Patti, I'm really conscious that we're into the last minute or so of this particular episode.
Yeah.
So I'd like to leave the listeners with some words of wisdom for you, from you, in terms of how they can better live their own lives, and also what we've got to look forward to in terms of your future plans, which we're going to have to be another episode at this point.
Well, I'll sum up. I can answer both of those in less than a minute. I just had a pen made up for the studio, and it said, "Be nice, be grateful, follow your heart, and live your best life through Good Soul." So I think the most important thing is that you follow your heart and you stay true to yourself and you have integrity and you have virtue and you don't gossip a lot or kind of get excited over people's misfortunes. And I will use the business to by way of the yoga and the podcast and the blog. And hopefully I plan on having an app which will allow people to log their gratitude and their finances and their fitness and read the blog every day on this app, which will also be a website. I'll do a line of books, again, kind of funneling out all this wisdom that I've amassed throughout my life.
Yeah.
And I'd hopefully like to one day run for U.S. Senate and really make a difference in the world.
Wonderful.
So we'll see.
Thank you, Patti.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you for 2 episodes all about me. And we will be back. Thank you so much, listeners.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you for episode 74. God. All right. Love you guys. Thanks. Love you.